You're listening to Monday Matters, a Principal Matters podcast production.
Hi, Principal Matters listeners. This is Will Parker, along with my co-host Jen Schwanke, together for a Monday Matters. And Jen, this one's coming out in February as we step into the month. And I'm just going to be really transparent and tell listeners, you and I just recorded like 20 minutes of conversation, and then we're like, oh, guess what? We forgot to hit record. So welcome to our Monday Matters, which is Jen and I having to redo a conversation that we just had. Jen,
I didn't think you were going to admit this, Will. I didn't, because here's the thing, listeners. We decided we're not going to pout about it. We're just going to go back in. I didn't think you were going to open with honesty, for heaven's sakes. But okay, here we are. We're going to be better than ever.
We are. So it's February. You're going to be in Utah, right? What are you doing this month out there in the great state of Utah?
Yes, I'm a little nervous about the weather. I got to admit, flights out in and out of any Western airport is a gamble this time of year. But I'm going to be working with the Utah Association of Elementary School Principals. I'm going to be doing a keynote and a breakout session as well. We're going to talk about conflict and how you can lead with your heart. So it'll be a good trip.
Well, this month I get to be back in your neck of the woods near Columbus, Ohio, for some PD with the Office of School Sponsorship, working with principals across your beautiful state. And you and I, we try to see each other whenever I come to Ohio, and it never happens. So we'll just air high five each other as I.
Yes, we always try to get together, but flight times usually make that an impossibility. So, well,
if you're listening to this conversation for the first time, welcome. Our flagship show's on Wednesdays, so please check out Principal Matters, the flagship show. Fridays with the encore episodes, but Mondays is just a chance for Jen and I to say hello, talk about what's going on with us, and just something we've been learning in our work. And the thing I want to talk about, Jen, this time is how time spent equals relationships built. I was sitting in a coaching conversation with the district leader, who's relatively new to his position. And we were talking about the tension of trying to build credibility when you're first stepping in to doing something, and then also leading change because you see things that need to happen and change. And so we were just discussing that tension of like, how hard do you push when it comes to trying to exact change? And then how much time do you spill building trust? And so I just wanted to bring that question to you because I was curious what your thoughts were.
And I'm glad you did. This is, I think, a pivotal question for many administrators, especially those that are a little bit new to not even necessarily the role, but their school, because I think many principals are counseled to not make big changes too quickly, build the trust, build the relationships, those kind of things first. And I think the mistake that's made is to think it has to be one or the other. I believe deeply and strongly that there is a sweet spot right in the middle where you can do both things at once. And so let me give you an example. I think if a principal comes into a room and there's conversations along the lines of, here's what we're going to do. This is the way we've always done it. It works. It's all fine. The principal can listen and be very present in that conversation, but also ask questions or make suggestions such as, wow, this is great. Have you ever thought about ... Or, I just had an idea that might be really fun or might be really effective ... And you can kind of see how those ideas, throwing those ideas out into the conversation, how it sticks. And if it doesn't stick at all and you get resistance, then you know that that's going to be your challenge. That's the problem that needs solved. And if it lands well, you might think, okay, now my problem is going to be implementation or speed or whatever. But doing all of that, you are building trust because you're being a listener, you're being engaged, you're communicating that you have time to give and that you're going to stick around for the process. And so all of that makes people think, wow, I'm really glad we have a leader in the room who's going to do both of these things, hear us and build the relationships, but also be a spark for change.
I'm glad you made the point that it's not an either or. And I want to stay in that tension for just a minute, because I think sometimes when we're thinking about leading change and we see things that need to happen, I don't know about you, but sometimes I can get really task oriented. Like, just give me my list of to-dos and I'll do them. But then I forget that sometimes that the groundwork that has to happen for those tasks to be effective is the building of those trusting relationships first, or at the same time. So there's actually two questions I want listeners just think about this for a second. Think about someone with whom you have a really high trust relationship. How fast can you get things done? How easily can you reach consensus? How effective is your collaboration? Jen, I'm thinking about the working relationship you and I have. We get a lot of things done fast because there's high trust. But now think of someone with whom you have a low trust relationship. And we've all been there. How hard is it to accomplish tasks with them? How difficult is it to reach consensus? How much efficiency do you lose because of all the conflicts you have to resolve? It's icky. And so with that in mind, I think that even as you're doing both, which is I'm gonna go towards the goals and tasks that I know are going to help and build relationships. I wanted to just bring this book to today's Monday Matters, which is The Speed of Trust by Stephen M. R. Covey, which I know has been around for a while, but I've been using it in the coaching I've been doing this year. And I love how he breaks trust down into 5 categories. And I'm just going to quickly summarize each, but not go exhaustive on them. But 1, we first have to be self-trustworthy, which means that we have to have the integrity and intents and capabilities and results that people can lean into and depend on. 2, we have to build relational trust, which means that we have to be building dividends in other people where they know that our relationships with them are trustworthy. We have to 3, build organizational trust, which you and I have talked a lot about this, which is we have to have the systems, the policies, and the procedures that support the work we're doing. 4, Covey calls it market trust. I like to call it brand trust. When people look at your organization or school, they know that it's making such a difference that they automatically see the value in what you're doing. And then 5, he calls this societal trust, which is the work that you're doing is making such a difference in your community that the impact of that whole organization is something that people would desperately miss if it was gone. And so I know these Monday Matters are, shorter thinking exercises for you and me, but I just wanted to bring those into the room today because I think sometimes it's important for us as we're building relationships and as we're trying to accomplish goals, we don't forget that all of those trust categories are happening at the same time.
Right, right. And you know what? I'd like to add something to it. I've been thinking a lot about trust and how principles, trust is a word that sometimes gets thrown at them if it's not going well. And yet they're always striving to do. And I hear a lot of talk. We do a lot on the podcast, a lot of talk about building relationships and building trust. And I do think that's a gigantic piece of this is to be trustworthy as an organization, as a human being, as a team, et cetera. But I also think there's the piece we don't talk about as much. And I actually write at length about this in a book I've got coming out this year. And it's the concept of being trust willing. And that in the context of being a principal is letting others lead, letting others' ideas really become part of what you do, getting out of the way, avoiding the micromanagement stuff. It's not realistic that a principal carry the weight and needs of an entire community's trust. You've got to let others do that too, and you have to be willing to let others do that. I think it's a mark of a very successful principal if a community or a staff trusts one another just as much as they trust the principal. It really should be all of us working together. And I know that sounds very idealistic, but I think it starts with the principal modeling. I don't need to be the only guy doing this. I can let others have a lot of the trust as well.
Trust willing, not just trustworthy. I can't wait till
Right.
your new book comes out, Jen.
Right.
So, we're going to celebrate that on the show when it does. So trust is not built in a vacuum or in isolation. And I don't know about you, but whenever I'm struggling, like in a relationship, whether it's with a team member, a teacher, student, whoever, my tendency is I want to pull away. And so what I what I really want to be challenging all of us to think about is how do we lean in? Because I'm not talking about like stepping into dangerous situations and toxic relationships. Some of those you need to just like be able to keep at arm's distance. But I'm talking about people within your organization that that if you're not leaning into that relationship, the distance is just going to create more and more distrust. So let's be real. There are times when it's hard to get along, or hard to be trustworthy or to trust someone else. But I don't know, Jen, maybe listeners, think about these 3 questions as you're stepping into your week. How are you scheduling time with others to build trust? So look at your schedule. And if you don't actually have time built in for building trust with students and teachers and community members, then like make that a priority. Or 2, how are you staying visible with the people that you're building trust with your students and teachers and community members? Because your visibility automatically builds trust. And then 3, what are some things you might need to say no to so that you can say yes to the actions that you know are going to build trust? So, Jen, this isn't to like put burdens on anybody as they step in their week, but these are just thoughts that I know leaders are struggling with, and I wanted to go there.
Yeah, I think I hope we started everyone's week off right. I want to say one additional thing, and that's about that, the scheduling of time and being able to say no to things. I want to clarify that doesn't mean it doesn't get done. It might mean that you don't do it. Someone else does, though. Someone might literally be paid to do it, or somebody else might do it better. It just means that there's times you can say, you know what, this doesn't seem like it's in my wheelhouse, but it seems important to the organization. So let me think about that, and who else might be able to pick this up. So yeah, these Monday Matters are fun, Will. I hope our listeners like them. Listeners, you better let us know. So Will and I aren't over here having a grand old time and they're not landing with you. So please let us know.
Yeah, let us know. You can find free resources just like this one at my website at williamdparker.com. And Jen, how can they stay connected with you?
Yeah, they can find more about me or reach out at jenschwanke.com.
Well, we hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for listening, and thanks for doing what matters.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Monday Matters.